Blended Podcasts. Brought to you by Blended Audio.
ArtPod is a South African-focused visual arts podcast hosted by Claude Chandler. Join me weekly every Saturday as I'm joined by a new guest who occupies a position within the visual arts community, ranging from fine arts, tattooing, framing, and logistics. Hello, welcome to another episode of ArtPod. This is a milestone episode 20. I'm joined by my second tattoo artist guest. His name is Victor van Heerden, is that correct?
Van den Heever.
Van den Heever, oh my god, I bloody messed that up.
It's a bit of a tongue twister, dude, there's no problem, man.
I was repeating the name in my head over and over, and I think I just jinxed myself.
No problem, man.
So for those of you listening, could you please just describe your tattoo career or where you work and just a little background?
No problem, yeah. So I've been in the industry for about 10 years. I think each tattoo artist probably has a very unique story as to how they got into tattooing. Normally one would find an apprenticeship, from someone who's considered a master or as a good tattoo artist. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of little tricks that you can learn that just makes your life a lot easier because it's a refined craft. But for me, I started off as what the industry would call a scratcher. Meaning I started off with a shitty tattoo machine from China and no idea what I was doing, and I started tattooing my legs and I was like, whoa, this is quite difficult. It's not as easy as I thought it would be. And to a certain extent I got addicted, to like figuring out how this works, the dynamics, and it's a very interesting, and still to this day, every time I tattoo, I'm captivated by it. It's the only time when my mind is quiet. I don't know if anyone can associate this, but if you're a bit of a analytical overthinker, sometimes you struggle to shut your mind down. Mm-hmm. And with this modern day living, one can adopt a bit of neurosis. And for me, tattooing is very much I wouldn't say medicinal, I mean a meditative. It's like a meditation. I really enjoy it every time I do it.
Just chasing that dragon.
Exactly, man. And it's at least a drug that doesn't destroy your brain cells.
For sure. And I mean, 10 years ago, what kind of inspired you to get the tattoo machine? And
well, I knew this guy. He was heavily tattooed, even for those days, and
okay.
Like 10 years ago, it was still a lot more underground than it is now. And I don't know why, but I was so attracted to this guy's look, and he's like you don't really see this kind of stuff in public. Now you do a lot more, but back then I was just intrigued by this guy, and I started hanging out with him. And yes, he was quite a rough individual, and but yet a very misunderstood soul, and it also relates to how important tattooing has become for me, because people would always judge on first look, as to how a person looks, and this human being was just a misunderstood soul, and he was tattooing as well. He was tattooing from his house, and I think I was 19 years old and I went for my first little tattoo, and from there I just hung out with the guy a lot and asked him if I could, try and pick some stuff up, and that's where the ball started rolling for me. The thing about it though is he wasn't a professional, so to speak, and it kind of set me back in a way, but I don't regret it because everybody gets introduced to something in a different way. So, there's no college you can go to learn tattooing. And although there are some charlatans that give tattooing classes, there's no such thing as tattooing classes, man. You need to be in a shop and you need to experience how these individuals they all have their own unique little approaches before their tattoo, like little mantras and things that they do to get themselves in that mindset, because it's a lot of pressure, you know, like tattooing is probably one of the most unforgiving arts that you get. You make a mistake, it's there, you can see it, you know. So you need to be sharp, you need to be on your toes. And I've always said to myself, I never want to get complacent, even if I'm doing a tiny little rose, you know, because I can make one mistake and that tiny little rose won't look so great, and that person has to wear that now, you know.
Going back to the, you know, learning for how to become a tattoo artist, saying that there's no tertiary system or education for it. Why do you think that's the reason?
It's plain and simple. It's just it was too much of an underground thing, you know. You know, mainstream society view tattooing or associate tattooing with the underworld and criminals and sailors and bikers and, you know,
and chefs.
Chefs. Oh, geez, you know. But it's changed now. So. I think they probably, I haven't really done much research lately. I'm sure there are academies now that would offer some sort of a, you know, tertiary approach to it. But because it's such a refined craft, the only way to really learn properly is to spend the whole day with someone who knows what they're doing and watching them like a hawk, watching everything that they do. And, you know, you got to pay your dues in a sense, because when you do an apprenticeship, you can't walk in there with an attitude like, all right, I actually know everything. And, you know, it's a tough industry. It's a creative industry, and it's very tough. And you're gonna have to be willing to sweep floors, and you're gonna have to be willing to be talked down to and belittled and all that kind of stuff. It's all part of that initiation process, so to speak.
So you think there would be a lot of pushback or resistance by other tattoo artists if someone came from, say, if there was a tertiary system where they didn't go through that process?
I think very much so. But the thing is, what's happened with tattooing now is because it was associated with the underworld, and yes, it was mostly, the characters who were doing tattoo weren't what you would call refined artists. You know, very much the beginning of tattooing was focused on doing flash art. So it's pre-designed, basic, you know, art that a guy would create, and you do it over and over on people. You choose, I want the sailor lady, or I want this, or, you know. Whereas now it's become so mainstream in a sense that a fine artist can pick up a tattoo machine, do an apprenticeship in a year's time, learn all the fundamentals of how to get ink into the skin, but have this vast knowledge of art, understanding value, gradients, light sourcing, and all that kind of stuff that comes with creating a very dimensional, you know, depth design, in-depth design. So, and I think that's what saved tattooing, and that's what's making tattooing become a more respected industry.
Sure.
It's because it's hell of a difficult. To this day, I still sometimes break a bit of a sweat when I get to a certain part that's close to the elbow and I know the skin is shitty, and I've got to get this in, and I can't work it in too much because then I will traumatize the skin, and then it will only show when the tattoo's healing and not now. So it is a trial and error thing, and I don't think a lot of tattoo artists want to talk about this, but I can tell you now, even the best tattoo artists in Cape Town did a shit tattoo when they started.
For sure.
There is no way you can pick up a tattoo machine and be genius at it. Some people do have opportunities and people who teach them the right way, and others, like myself, took a very long journey to get to that point to find an apprenticeship and learn the right methods and such. But ultimately, you must always stay humble and remember that first shitty tattoo that you did, and you need to make up for it now by doing the best work you possibly can.
A little bit of karma. I mean, yeah, I can imagine that every tattoo artist has, you know, a shit tattoo or a shit day and makes a horrible
if you look at me, I'm just a walking practice pad, man. I've got the crappiest tattoos ever, but used to bother me a lot, but now it's more like I accept it because that's my journey, you know. This is how I got into it, you know.
Well, how do you react, or what is the reaction to a client? I mean, how do you navigate that when a mistake is made?
Well, luckily for me, I would always, if look, it depends on what you see as a mistake. You know, when we're looking at art, when you're looking at a well-done tattoo, you know, any person can dissect the tattoo. Every person can zoom into it and find one little line that's a bit wobbly. Do you call that a mistake or do you call that art?
Sure.
But if you traumatize someone's skin, you know, or do something that makes the tattoo not heal like it should, then you should take responsibility for it. But once again, so many variables. If you have a guy with a skin that's not really reacting well to tattooing, really reflects on people's health as well. You know, I can very much tell about a person when I look at their skin. You know, how well they look after themselves. It's weird, man. The skin is it's the biggest organ on your body. It's breathing. It's living just like you. So if you drink lots of water and you get the right nutrients, I have a blast tattooing you. If you drink lots of alcohol and do cocaine every night, I don't enjoy tattooing you. You know, it's not great at all.
Sure.
So I always try and read my clients through. You know, we always have consultations before we just jump in and tattoo. Just to see what I'm working with, what my limitations are, you know. And there's plenty of people that I turn down for that reason, because you end up sitting with more pain and heartache than anything else, because you can't achieve what you wanted to achieve.
And with it going more mainstream, do you find a lot more clients drinking water and smoothies?
Well, look, I always, before I tattoo someone, it would normally be a week or so, you know, that the booking is made in advance. Then I'll tell them, make sure you hydrate and try and eat healthy. It's really going to reflect well on how you take the pain and how I get to, you know, put this tattoo on your skin, how it's going to go into your skin. And most people, you know, obviously they understand the severity of it, and they understand that whatever they can do to help the process will help it. And I've been fortunate to work with really nice clients who respect the art. And that's something that I want to challenge tattoo artists, because I feel like a lot of these guys have a very closed-minded approach, and they're trying to keep it niche and in a clique, and all the good tattoo artists stay together, and they don't really want to share any secrets or anything like that. But at the end of the day, I believe anyone who wants this opportunity and can get the information and is willing to put the work in deserves to be a tattoo artist. You don't need to know PT, Sunny, or the cool guys to be able to achieve that. You need to want to have it, and you need to want to become a good artist, because it goes hand in hand. You can be a good tattooist and copy stuff, or you could be a tattoo artist, create your own art and then recreate it on skin. And that's what I'm pursuing. And
for sure,
definitely a lot more time consuming than just spook and pluck, you know.
No, definitely. Earlier you mentioned about a lot of, say, or the opportunity for fine artists or creatives to pick up the tattoo gun and kind of, you know, train and pursue
sorry,
that.
let me correct you there. It's a tattoo machine.
Tattoo machine.
Yeah, sorry, it's just because
Is the G word
the reason people, you know, don't really want it to be associated with a gun is because of that stigma, you know.
That makes perfect sense.
We don't shoot people.
Funny. So picking up a tattoo machine, do you know of any artists that have gone that route personally?
You mean fine artists?
Yes.
Not personally. I know of many. I mean, I follow a lot of international artists on Instagram, and you know, you can just blatantly see that they have an art background by the things that they're doing. But I must say there's a couple of local artists who all started off more or less the same vibes as me, self-taught, trying to get into the game. No one really wants to give you any information. I mean, I can't tell you how many tattoo studios I walked to when I was a young kid with my little shitty machine, trying to get information on how to tune it and make it better, and they all shunned me, you know.
Really? Okay.
And I understand. Look, I understand, because scratching is bad, you know, like just picking up a tattoo machine and tattooing people is a bad thing. You cause trauma, you know, you can alter someone's physical appearance for the rest of their life. Luckily, you know, for me, I wasn't trying to do sleeves on people. I was doing tiny little shitty tattoos and on myself and on my mates. But I would understand why they would shun you, because, you know, it's seen and it's taken very seriously. You know, there's a medical procedure that goes with it.
Yes.
So it was disheartening, of course, and you know, it wasn't just like leave my shop. It was like, you effing piece of F, you know, what the hell do you think you're effing doing, blah, blah, blah. But it in a sense pushed me, because I suppose I'm a bit of a stubborn person as well. So if you tell me I can't do something, then I'll be like, all right, buddy, now I'm going to do it. Even if I have to practice 17 hours a day, I will show you I can do it, kind of thing. So yeah, it's now I feel though, because 10 years ago it was a lot more underground. Now I feel though there's enough information out there. I mean, if I just look at what it was like on the internet back then to find any information on tattooing, all the information you found was not the right information. It was other scratchers making videos on YouTube.
I'm trying to find a community.
Yeah, so now you can go and watch famous artists like Bob Tyrrell, who's an amazing black and grey artist, do a 8.5 hour tattoo, and you can watch step by step what he's doing. You know, the information is there now, so people don't really have an excuse to be ignorant now and just pick up a machine and wreak havoc. You know, you can teach yourself now. If you can't get an apprenticeship because it's difficult, you're gonna either have to know someone or have money. That's the gist of it. If you don't have those resources, you can teach yourself, but you can get practice skin now. You can buy, rather spend 8,000 Rand on a tattoo machine than 800 Rand, because the 800 Rand machine is not going to work properly. So it's very much got to do with the tools that you use, obviously. Just as a race car driver, if Michael Schumacher was given a Mini Cooper, he's not really going to get much done around that track. You know, give him the Ferrari that he was driving. That's his sweet spot. That's his confidence. So you need good equipment. And to anyone listening to this, if you want to become a tattoo artist, the information is there, the equipment is there. You can get practice skin, and then slowly start your journey and be wise about it, because every shit tattoo that you do is a shit tattoo with your name on it. And for me, I had to basically rewrite myself about 3 years ago, because I got an opportunity at a very good tattoo studio, and when I realized how much wrong I was doing, or how much I didn't know, let's just say how much I didn't know, it was a shock, man. It was a shock, and I had to basically realize that I've got to put everything I've got into this now, because this isn't a game, you know, like, it's super serious, and these artists take their work seriously. And I just hope other people don't have to walk that long road that I did, because I could have learned all that stuff in the 3 years that I started. But because the opportunities weren't there, it was a bit of an arduous journey. But once again, one reflects, I can't, everything happened the way it should have for me to be here today.
Exactly. You never know. Maybe you needed to go through all that trial and error.
That's the crazy thing about life, man. Look, I'm not into fatalism or anything, but it's weird how things work out sometimes, man. You know, I'm very confident and happy with where I am with tattooing right now. But on another breath, I know that there is no limit to. I'm never gonna get to the point where I'm like, all right, I made it now. I'm gonna stick here. You know, this is the level I'm staying with now. You get complacent, your work becomes a repetition. Your designs become a repetition. Then what's the line between creating art and sticking on designs, sticking designs on people that don't really have any artistic influence anymore? It's like you doing a rose every day, and you just keep doing these roses, and you're not really, maybe I should try this rose this way, or maybe I should do a completely different style, whatever it is. You get complacent if you do the same thing over and over. So you need to try and challenge your clients to also try to incorporate something that makes the tattoo unique for them, because something that is very frustrating for me is to see a certain style that's become like a fashion symbol. It's not really an artistic thing anymore, and unfortunately, that's what happens when things become very popular.
But I'm sure you also must find that dealing with clients and people, you soon realize that people actually don't know what they want, and you have to tell them what they want.
That is the greatest gift for you as an artist.
For sure,
and
yes.
a lot of people see that as a negative thing. Oh, everybody's stupid. They don't know what the fuck they want. And here comes another idiot who wants a rose or whatever the hell is. The premise behind it is that you're just going to get frustrated if you see it like that. If you're willing to sit with this person, willing to get to know this person, there's a lot of dynamics to tattooing. It's not just about tattooing.
Sure.
It's about your connection that you make with this person. And to me, it's very much a spiritual practice. Some people, we all interpret it differently. For me, it's an ancient thing. Skin has been marked thousands of years ago. It's an ancient thing, and it can be very powerful. There's nothing that, sorry to say, there's nothing that makes me harder than seeing a client look at their tattoo and you can see this thing is empowering them.
Sure.
Whether they had a shitty time, past experience, or they're dealing with trauma, or they've got a physical feature that they don't like, and you can either cover it up or even accentuate it with a piece of art and change the whole perception about it is probably the most important thing about this job.
Well, yeah, I mean, speaking to a number of tattoo artists, it becomes quite a spiritual experience.
Totally.
I think.
I think if you're into tattooing for the right reasons, I think most tattoo artists will agree with me now. It is a spiritual thing. You connect with people. The connections. I mean, I'm starting to push my sittings to how long I can sit with a client. My longest has been 9.5 hours.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, dude, it's hard practice to get yourself to be able to do that, and the person to sit that long.
Of course.
But the connection that you make with a human being, think about this. You've got a good friend. How many hours do you spend with your good friend a week? Now I'm sitting with this individual that I don't really know from a bar of soap, but 9.5 hours later, we've covered a lot of things.
A very vulnerable position.
In a very vulnerable, trusting position. So I'm very fortunate to make great friends as well. Like my clients, I don't see tattooing as a business. That's kind of why I approach tattooing the way I do. I have a private studio. It's very professional, very clinical. All my medical waste gets disposed the right way, because there's this big stigma,
Yes, I think.
But I honestly have an amazing place. It's out in Vijgenboom, Durbanville.
Please quickly just punt it. And just...
You can actually even Google Vijgenboom Manor. That's the residence that it's in. And I've just got a really cool setup to do this one-on-one thing, to spend time with my clients. Because what happens with a lot of tattoo studios is it becomes a meat grinder, because you're working for someone who wants to make money. That's their motive. You're an artist. You need to pay them 50% of what you make. The rest they take.
So it works on a commission thing, because sometimes I thought it would be like almost like real estate. You rent a chair, or
that's also a way you can do it.
Okay.
Like each shop is different, but normally it's a 50-50 or 60-40 or 70-30 split.
Okay.
But unfortunately, when you're there, you're kind of in a way forced to punt tattooing. You're forced to get through your clients, to do 3-4 small tattoos a day, where I have the luxury now of trying to kind of steer away from smaller tattoos and only focus on larger pieces, because a larger piece is a way longer process. Doing a sleeve, not like Miami ink and LA ink and all these I know you can see my air quotes, reality TV shows portray a really false it's not how tattooing works, man. A sleeve takes months to do. It's sessions and sessions of work, but it's ultimately that time. And this is the cardinal rule of tattooing is time. Take your time. If it takes you an hour to get that nose perfectly done, take a damn hour and do it, because that's on that person's life till they die. So there should never be a rush in time. Yes, there are some dynamics, like if you charge per hour, certain people only have a budget and that, but then plan your tattoos out properly so that you can get far enough to continue the next time, you know. So I'm very much pursuing you know, growing as an artist just as much as a tattoo artist. And recently I've been spending a lot more time behind a pen than behind a tattoo machine. So my rule now is, if I'm not tattooing, I should be drawing. So every day, if I don't have a client that I'm tattooing, or if I've got an off day, I'm sitting behind a pen, designing, drawing.
And in terms of, say, the fine art scene, have you tried to kind of immerse yourself in it, either by doing like First Thursday or going to galleries, or?
To be honest with you, not yet. I don't feel confident enough, man. Like, you know, me as a tattoo artist, I know what the capabilities are of fine artists.
Sure.
You know, I know what those guys can do, and I would love to meet some of them and pick up what I can. But one is a bit shy to go, hey, look, man, I drew this. What do you think of this? Because
no, for sure.
Nobody likes to hear someone telling you, hey, that's a shitty drawing, man. And you think, oh, I've been in this industry now a while. I think I know what I'm doing. But compared to some of these guys out there, it's ridiculous what people are doing now with art, man.
For sure. But I think just in terms of like, either it be kind of philosophy or ways of seeing or ways of thinking.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely something to gain from that.
Of course, yeah.
And
man, I'll take your advice. I'll suit up and
you don't need to suit up. I think, like, you know, that whole thing of perceptions and, you know, when things go a bit more mainstream, it does make it a lot more accessible. And I think the great thing with First Thursday, you have people who just want to go out and have some drinks and then, like, you know, see some work, and then that's all that's required. I think there's this idea that it's high above society and, like, you know, only the elite can dabble in it. But I definitely find that a lot more of these kind of creative industries are merging.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah,
and I think that's the way to push it forward.
Of course,
I think either it be, you know, fine art picking up stuff from street art and vice versa, and tattooing picking up stuff from fine art. And I think even you being a musician, I think the two definitely blend and kind of feed.
Yeah, I feel music is a form of art as well, man.
Definitely.
So it's just all got to do with being creative, expressing yourself in whatever way, shape or form. Just checking the time there.
Checking the time, because I'm going to get into trouble here. Well, we are on 26 minutes, so we're going to have to call it.
Okay, awesome, man.
Yeah, it would be great to chat again. And I think even maybe in the future we can do like a First Thursday art thing and bring Peter along, and you know, cool, we can just chat about it and review the work, of course, and see what crazy shit's there and what's good. And
and if people want to have a look at my portfolio, I've got an Instagram at @dottedvic, and I specialize in pointillism and black and grey tattooing.
Great.
So go check out my work, and
yes, and I can also plug him and highly recommend.
Cool.
Yeah, I really highly recommend him. Peter's got an amazing tattoo on his calf.
That's still in progress. Wait till that's done.
It's amazing to see what you can do with the tattoo machine how you can push it. And it was a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you so much, man.
Cool.
I appreciate it. Awesome.
Great. Thank you for listening, and thank you, Blended Audio, for making this possible. Catch you next week where I chat to Peter, the man himself. ArtPod is a South African-focused visual arts podcast hosted by Claude Chandler and produced by the generous assistance of Blended Podcasts, brought to you by Blended Audio.